close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Star Sport podcast. I'm Jack McCarran of the Southern Star, and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On today's show we'll be joined by Munster and Ireland fullback Enya Breen to chat about her remarkable season in which she made her full Ireland debut.
We'll also chat to Southern Star editor Con Downing, who was at the RDS on Saturday to watch Munster lose yet another semi-final to Leinster. With plenty of changes expected at the province over the coming weeks, we'll ask Con where Munster go from here.
But first, Bandon's Conor Hourihane has played a vital role in guiding his Aston Villa side to the playoff final against... Remind me who they're playing, Kieran?
Derby County.
Against Derby County next Monday. Is it Monday or Sunday?
Next Monday at Wembley.
Next Monday at Wembley. Apologies for that Freudian slip. And Kieran, you caught up with Conor earlier in the week for a piece in this week's paper. First of all, how's he keeping and how's his preparations going for the final?
Yeah, Conor's in good form. Conor's never made any secret about his desire and want to get to the Premier League. You might surprise some people. He's 28 years old now. There seems to be this perception out there that Conor's a young fella, but 28 could be a young fella still, but in football terms, I think
it's young.
Well, I'm on the other side of 30, so I wouldn't mind going back to being 28 again. But
young forever.
He's coming to, you could say, the peak couple of years of his career. So if he wants to get to the Premier League, it really needs to be now. If he gets to the other side of 30, the odds will diminish of him getting to where he wants to be. Like I said, he's never made any secret that he wants to get to the big show. Got close last year. Villa got to the playoff final, but they lost to Fulham, and deservedly so, in Wembley last year. But there's something different about this Villa team this year. They've far more momentum behind them, Jack. They're playing a lot better. They went on a superb run there for a couple of months. They did 10-11 wins in a row. They really went well before they drew at Leeds in that kind of controversial game that we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Conor's impact in the playoff semi-final over the two legs can't be understated as well. He scored a cracker of a goal in the first leg and then scored one of the all-important penalties in the shootout in the second leg.
He was, like you said, he got in the first leg. In the first leg, when Villa were 1-0 down, Conor got the goal that made it 1-1. Then Villa went on to win that leg 2-1. Then, like you said, in the penalty shootout, he scored as well. But Conor's he's obviously a top class player. Like, he's an Irish international, and he was man of the match there against Gibraltar in the recent Euro qualifiers, and he got the winning goal then against Georgia.
But he's not doing it enough for one of Ireland's top pundits, Kieran, and you're not happy about it.
No, John Giles was on off the ball there recently, and I'll just quote what John Giles said. He's neat and tidy. I would expect more of him on the ball as a midfield player. He gets it from A to B, but there's nothing really creative about him. I'd really like to ask John Giles, has he actually seen Conor play over the last couple of years? Because Conor's stats in the championship are up there with the very, very best. Like, if you look at this year with Villa, he's got 11 assists. That's the most Villa have got. That's not bad for a player who's not creative, I suppose. He's got 8 goals. Not bad for a fella in central midfield. And in the last couple of years, Conor's always got double figures, so he's actually down this year.
On his 8 goals, I would say 70% of them are probably crackers. He likes to score a belter of a goal. He's
a super left foot and a sweet left foot. He's played I think 45 games for Villa this season, and that's not bad again for a fella who was kind of... He had a frustrating time before Christmas when Dean Smith came in as Villa manager after Steve Bruce was sacked. It took Conor a little bit of time to find his feet, but he has since. So for John Giles to say there's not really creative about him, that's not really true. Maybe Giles is kind of judging him off his Ireland performances over the last couple of years. And to be fair to Conor again, under the previous management, Conor never got a goal. He was used as a bit part player here and there in these meaningless friendlies. But Mick McCarthy gave him the chance, like I said, in those 2 Euro qualifiers. You got a match-winning goal, a cracking free kick, and you got a man-of-the-match performance. So I don't really see what John Giles is on about. He's quite a good midfield player, kind of. I don't know what he's expecting off him. Like, Conor moves the ball well, you know. He's a box-to-box player, but he just keeps the play ticking over. Like, he's not one of those fellas he's probably 7 out of 10 player in every game, you know, kind of. He's not a Jack Grealish. Like, Jack Grealish is like the star of that team, like, and he's a bit of va-va-voom and a bit of magic about him. But Conor's a very, very important player in the team, because you can see by his stats, like his stats are up there with the very best, and they've been like that through with Barnsley, Plymouth. He's, like I said, double goals every season. He's more assists than anyone, I think, since he joined Villa. He's assist up there with the very, very best. So again, not bad for a player who's not really creative, according to John Giles. So,
well, there you have it. Johnny Giles, Kieran McCarthy, Star Sport editor, is calling you out. He's calling your knowledge of Aston Villa and Conor Hourihane into question. John Giles, of course, the ultimate football man. Kieran, are you challenging his status as Ireland's number one football man?
Well, I'm not at his level just yet, you know, kind of just give me a while. But no, it's just when I heard that about Conor, about what he was saying about Conor, I just couldn't agree with it, because the stats don't back it up. And if you watch Villa, Conor he's a decent player. He's a good player. He has to be. Like, it's a good Villa team, and they're probably favourites to go up to the Premier League, you know. And then Conor Hourihane, this banding man, could be a Premier League footballer, you know, kind of. And he, like I said, he's deserved it. He's worked really, really hard, you know, kind of. When he went over to England first, to Sunderland, it didn't work out there. Went to Ipswich, didn't work out there. He dropped all the way down to League Two, to Plymouth. He was made captain there when he was a young fella, 22, 23, and that says a lot about him as well. He played his way up there, won a move to Barnsley, captained them to promotion, captained them to glory in Wembley. It was the E.A. Johnston Trophy, or the sports trophy, that Johnson Payne Trophy, sorry. Then he got his move to Aston Villa. How could you forget that? Oh, yeah, no, that should stick in my mind. Yeah. But he got his move then to Villa 2 years ago. His stats there are really impressive since, after, to be fair, probably a tricky enough start, because he joined them in a January transfer window. But again, he's in form at the right time of the season. He's looking forward to next Monday. He feels the time is right. He thinks there's an energy about this Villa team now that probably last year's team didn't have. Some of those players, the likes of him, Jack Grealish and so on, have the experience of losing a playoff final at Wembley, and like that hurt and that pain, and even that experience of playing at Wembley in a playoff final should stand to them next Monday. That Derby Leeds semi-final was a cracker as well. It was a super game, but you just have to fancy Villa. I think they're in form at the right time of the season, Jack.
Good stuff. Well, while we let Kieran cool down just for a couple of minutes, and we'll take a quick break. And coming up next, we're talking rugby with Southern Star editor Con Downing, and we have an interview with Ireland and Munster fullback Skibbereen's Enya Breen.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, number one for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. I'm joined now by Star editor Con Downing, who was at the Pro 14 semi-final between Munster and Leinster at the RDS on Saturday. Con, it was a disappointing end to what at times looked like a promising season for Munster.
It was, yeah. We were hoping, we probably travelled there more in hope than expectation, and we would have been very happy if Munster had done justice to themselves, but unfortunately I don't think they did. Certainly from an attacking viewpoint, because they coughed up the ball a good few times. They either had it ripped from them, or they knocked on ball once they got inside the 22, the Leinster 22, which wasn't that often. But they just I saw some headlines in the papers there at the start of the week describing their performance as toothless, and I think that's quite an apt description. Now, that's not taking away from the fact that they still reached the two semi-finals, but they seem to have reached a glass ceiling that they can't get beyond that, like either in the Pro 12 or in the Champions Cup. So it's difficult, and now with all the changes that are happening, it's not boding well. I mean, it's very difficult, even if a new attacking coach comes in, like, he'll only be working with a certain amount of the players for the first 6 months or so, because the national squad players will be away in preparation for the World Cup and playing at the World Cup. So it is sort of worrying.
Have I suppose for Munster playing a Leinster team that were coming off losing the European final, Leinster probably they weren't there for the taking, but it could have been a good chance for Munster to get one over them. But Munster again, they looked a good bit off the standard of the Leinsters and those top teams. They were level below them at the moment. They just don't seem to have kicked on, kind of.
They don't know, and it's mystifying really why not, because like their defence is very good, but like their penalty count was a bit higher. Right? I think the last time they had 13 as opposed to only 6 or 7 from Leinster, I think, in the match. Yeah. So that error count would have counted against them, and Leinster kept ticking the scoreboard over every opportunity they could, and there was some bad decision making as well too. Just coming up to half time there, Munster at the scrum just before the clock went red, and the score was 6-6, but they insisted on keeping playing the ball instead of booting it out into the stand, and they ended up going in 9-6 down at half time, and it just, you'd have to query some of the decision making out in the field, and that's not really down to you can't blame the coaches for that.
Yeah, like you've watched Munster play a lot this season, Con. Have you seen them improve? Have you seen any kind of signs there looking towards next season that hinted that are somewhat encouraging? Or
well, they have come on a bit defensively, there is no doubt about that. Yeah. But it's the lack of attacking edge, I mean, I was talking to a guy coming down the car with me about, they looked a bit like the Cork footballers going laterally back and forth across the field. Yeah. And that doesn't bode well. I think you need to have more cutting edge in your attack.
When you look towards the next season, I suppose, especially with the World Cup coming up, some of the bigger guns, the Conor Murrays and the Peter Mahonys, they won't be back till what you're talking October, November. So is the hope so that some of the younger guys, and we're looking at Fionn Wycherley from a West Cork point of view, and Darren Sweetenham, hopefully you'd be hoping that they'd get a run at the start of next season?
Yes, I think they would. And like these younger guys proved themselves there in the last league game against Treviso, not the quarter final, when they came from behind over in Treviso. Like that young team showed great spirit, great bite. That was the type of thing, that the fighting spirit that we're looking for, and the young fella showed that, which was great. I mean, that was effectively the second team, but they really did themselves proud in that game, I thought.
Con, is it a worry that the likes of Conor Murray and Peter Mahoney, two of Ireland's best players the last couple of years, and two of Munster's probably top players, that they're kind of reaching their peak and they're playing as well as they can, but the Munster team isn't as good? Like, it's not contesting at the very, very top level for trophies. It's getting the semi-finals and so on, but it's just not quite good enough to win trophies. Is it kind of just for the likes of Murray and Peter Mahoney?
Well, you'd love to see these guys, because of all they've given to Munster over the years, win some silverware, and they need to bring it up that level. I mean, there is a question of resources as well too, and you have it like in the French teams, you have it in Saracens in England as well, and Leinster have it as well too. I mean, Leinster have an overcapacity in their coming out of their academy, so I think that's where Munster are lagging a bit behind. But I mean, I wouldn't sort of rule out all hope of them ever getting through once they get the cutting edge into their attack, which is I think the big priority. But one thing that struck me watching the match last Saturday between Leinster and Munster was there was no real sort of bite, flair or excitement in it, and I thought that it doesn't bode well for the Irish team that you effectively had the whole Irish team out there, and some, or most of them anyway, out there on the pitch. And like Leinster this weekend are going on to face Glasgow Warriors in Glasgow, and Glasgow are effectively the Scottish team to a great extent. And if Glasgow beat Munster in Glasgow in the final this weekend, I think that's psychologically a very bad thing going into the World Cup, because the first team Ireland are playing in the World Cup in the group stage is Scotland.
I know we're going to talk a lot more about the World Cup coming up to it, but it's already got that feeling that the World Cup is a year too late for this Irish team. If you rewind 12 months ago, Ireland were kind of Six Nations champions and about to head into a fantastic kind of autumn international schedule. Yeah. So it just seems that things aren't going as well.
No, they're not. I suppose the announcement of Joe Schmidt's departure too had a psychological effect. And after beating the All Blacks in the November internationals, I mean, that's probably as good as it gets, and it's very hard to replicate that coming back. But the one bit of hope I would have is that it happened 4 years ago as well, where they had peaked during the Six Nations, and there was a huge amount expected from them, and then they didn't produce it for the World Cup. But I think this lull has started a small bit earlier, so there's possibly some time to repair the damage between now and World Cup time. I'm sure that they'll be anxious to send Joe Schmidt on his way back to New Zealand on a high, and I think the spirit won't be lacking there anyway.
Brilliant. Fascinating stuff as always, Con. Now, Skibbereen's Enya Breen enjoyed a breakout year in the red of Munster and the green of Ireland, and the UL Bohs fullback dropped into the studio earlier in the week to reflect on a memorable season. We're delighted to be joined this week by Ireland's senior rugby international Enya Breen, who has enjoyed a tremendous season that saw her star for Munster in the Interpros, make her Ireland debut in the Women's Six Nations, and just recently, after her first season in the Women's AIL, Enya won the Women's AIL Rising Star Award that was presented to her by Joe Schmidt at the Viva Stadium. Welcome, Enya.
Thanks very much.
What a season it's been for you. But before we talk about the season just gone, let's go back to the start and how you first, I suppose, got started in rugby. You come from a fierce sporty family, and was that the reason you got involved in sport and rugby in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. When I was younger, we were kind of put into every kind of sport. So I played a bit of football, a bit of camogie at one stage, basketball, road bowling when we moved down here, and then my brothers had started playing rugby, so I kind of joined along with them and went along for fun, and now here we are. And
what was it about rugby to start that you liked and enjoyed?
I think it was the physicality, and just I wasn't your typical girl, so you'd say I loved getting down in the mud, and I loved the contact, and just loved it all really.
Because you started off first, it was Carrigaline that you lived for years, was it?
Yeah, I played in Carrigaline for about 4 years, I think, kind of with the minis and mixed with the boys, so there was no holding back with the boys anyway.
And when you moved to Skib, then I think it was around 10, you were 10 when you moved to Skib. Was that a big change for you, even just leaving Carrigaline and coming to Skibbereen, or what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was a big change. Carrigaline's nearly a lot closer to the city, and there was a lot more facilities. It was a bit of a shock to the system, really, being surrounded by so many farms, I think. But yeah, it was grand though. I got mixed in with a load of different teams down here, and it made the move a bit easier.
Because there was, at the time, there was no kind of Skibbereen Rugby Club. They never had a ladies section. So you went to Bantry, was it?
Yeah, I think it was a few years after we moved down here. Bantry set up an under 15 and under 18 team. So I kind of went along there, and there was a lot of girls that were new to the sport, and it was just good to get back into it again.
And who were some of the people involved in Bantry Bay Rugby Club that helped you?
So there's Damien Hicks. He's been great to me personally. Massive for my development, and then Eugene McCarthy as well. There's plenty of other coaches like Patrick O'Connor and more that I can't think of at the moment, but they've all been great for my development, and they've all helped me along the way, and they were there for those first kind of steps on this path. So I have a lot to thank them for, really.
Even like you said there, Eugene and Damien Hicks, they've put in huge work locally in rugby and stuff.
Yeah, they have. They're massive for the club down in Bantry, and I think they're part of the reason that you can see all the talent coming out of West Cork now at the moment, like the Wycherleys, myself even. So and I'm sure there's plenty more people to come.
What do you put that down to at the moment? There's been a huge growth in rugby in West Cork the last couple of years. We've talked about it in the podcast an awful lot. Even go Munster level, Darren Sweetenham, Fineen Wycherley, Liam Coombs, Gavin Coombs, Ireland under-20s this year, you, Josh Wycherley and John Hodnett, and then yourself and Laura Sheehan with the Ireland kind of senior women's team. And there's more besides that again. It's phenomenal at the moment.
Yeah, it's great to see though. I think there's just massive popularity around rugby in West Cork at the moment. You've Bandon Grammar in the Munster Junior and Senior Cup with the schools, and the Coombses, Gavin and Darren Sweetenham came out of there, and then Liam came out of Christian. So I think there's just massive popularity around it, and there's loads of work being done in the clubs and with volunteers and coaches, and I think it's part of the reason that you're seeing everyone coming out of West Cork at the moment.
What was your path so from Bantry through to Munster and then through to Ireland? What was that route?
So I was with Bantry under 18s, and I went for trials for the Munster under 18 team, and I think it was 2015, and then I made that, and I played Munster under 18 for 3 years, and then last year I got onto the Munster Talent Identification Programme, so that was kind of like a stepping stone from under 18 to senior, and then I got trials for the senior squad from that, and then I was transferring to Bohs while that was all going on, and then I made the Munster senior squad, and that happened, and I got 2 starts, and I got injured in the second game, I think, and that was just a bit surreal. I think I was playing against people that I'd looked up to since I was younger, so and then I was playing in the AIL with Bohs, and I got a call from Adam, I think in October, and that I missed the call initially, so I rang him back, and I didn't know who it was, so he just said that he was very impressed with my performances, and that I was called up to camp for the Autumn Internationals, and then it all happened from there, really.
It's been a superb rise. You can use whirlwind meteoric, you've risen up through the ranks so fast. But I have to talk about Munster for a second, because Clonakilty's Laura Guest is obviously coach of the Munster women's team, and she's a big fan. We've talked to her on the podcast before, and this is just a quote she had about you before, Enya. Enya has a bit of everything: great balance, superb strength, plenty of pace, good footwork, and more than anything else at that level, she has a brain. She has a rugby mind and a great understanding of the game. She will get better and better as time goes on. What's it like to hear that from someone like Laura Guest, who's won like the Grand Slam with Ireland, the kind of Six Nations level?
It's crazy, really. I think she's been very nice to me there, but no, I've learned loads from Guesty, and she's definitely a bit of a legend of the game. So to be learning from her kind of week in, week out, it's great, and I'm just trying to take every bit of information that I can from her and adapt it into my own game.
But you transferred to UL Bohs then. You've had a fairly good season. This is your first season with them, so is it?
Yeah, this is my first season with UL Bohs.
So won the cup and then just came up short in the league, is it?
Yeah, we won the All-Ireland Cup, and then we won the Munster Senior Cup, and then we just lost out in the All-Ireland League.
And in the All-Ireland League, on that railway team was a lady from Skibbereen that you know quite well, Claire Coombs. So
yeah.
What was that like?
It's different being on the opposite side of the pitch there. I think I preferred being in the same jersey. No, Claire's a great player, and I've played with her for many years. I'd say a good 4 years now with Bantry and between Munster and 18. So I think it's great to see her at that level, and I think there's only more to come from her. She's a great player, and I think she's a lot to show for herself. Turning
our attention to the Irish setup, like you were saying there, Adam Griggs, kind of Ireland manager, rang you last year, and unfortunately for the Autumn Internationals it didn't work out. You got injured, but you were back in the squad for the Six Nations this year, and to make your debut at only 19 against France in Donnybrook, like what was that like? Like, when did you find out you were starting, and what was your feeling coming up to the game?
It was all a bit surreal. It kind of flew past me a bit. Michelle Claffey got injured, I think, in the game before, so like the Six Nations is a long tournament, and you just have to be prepared. Anything could happen, like you could be called up the day before a game, and so once that happened, I was kind of preparing myself a bit mentally that this could be happening, like, and so I got a call then, I'd say the following week, because I think there was a week off between the French game and the Italy game, and so I got a call then that week, and Adam was just giving me a heads up, and he was just like, Michelle's got injured, so just be prepared, like, just show yourself well. I think we had a camp that weekend, so he was like, show yourself well and show why you deserve to be there. So I did that anyway, and then I got the news that I was starting, and it was just a bit crazy. I don't even think I had time to be nervous. I just had to prepare for the job that I had to do and kind of enjoy it at the same time, you know.
was kind of, I suppose, a bittersweet moment. France won that game, it was 47-17. But for you to get a taste of what it's like at that top level, like, you know, the French are a seriously good team.
Yeah, the French they're unbelievable, really. The hits were harder than anything I'd got before, and everything was just that bit faster, and it was good to get a taste of it, and I just want a bit more now.
And you held your place in for the Welsh game. That was the next game, wasn't it? So, like, you have 2 games under your belt now in Six Nations, which is, like, in terms of your development, like, you know, how much have they helped you?
Oh, they've been massive. It's just at that top level, you've just less time, you've more pressure on you, everything's that bit faster, that bit harder, so it's like that's helped my development massively, and just bringing that back into the club level, it's just sped things up. It's made me a better player, really. You
mentioned the physicality there against the French, and it was like a level up from what you were used to, or a few levels up. You love the physicality of the game, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I wouldn't be there if I didn't love the physicality. So it's great to get stuck in and make big hits, because if you're going to make big hits, you got to expect to get big hits. So yeah, like, physicality is a big part, and it's a part that I love.
What is it about rugby that you enjoy so much? So
yeah, I think I love a bit of everything about it, like the sport itself, the crack off the pitch, the crack on the pitch, and it's just been massive for me personally in my development. So I don't know, really, I just love it all.
And one of your greatest strengths is your versatility. You can play in a wide variety of positions. Like, you played a lot at 10, you played full back. Laura Guest said before she thinks you can play anywhere along the back line. What is your favourite position, or where would you like to play?
I think my favourite position is one of the centres, really. I think it's a really testing position on the pitch, and there's a lot of pressure on you, but you've more time on the ball than you would at 10, and you've a bit more space than you would, and you can see different things, and wherever you are in the back line you can see different things, and there's different opportunities for you. But I think centre's the position that I like the most.
You obviously mentioned Claire Coombs there a short while ago, and obviously Laura Sheehan from Ireland is on the UL Bohs team with you and the Munster team. Isn't it great to see West Cork women kind of playing at a high level, isn't it? It's great. Like, and do you think there's more to come? Even Skibbereen in the last couple of weeks, I think a couple of the girls there have been involved at interprovincial level and stuff. So it's definitely on the rise, you know, kind of women's rugby here in West Cork. Yeah,
it definitely is, and I think there's plenty of new clubs starting. I think Skib have been set up 2 years now, so I think there's definitely going to be a lot of talent coming from there. It'll probably start coming through under 18 first. I think there's been a few girls, alright, as you mentioned, in the under 18 into pros, and then they'll start seeping into the senior setup. And I think in the future you'll definitely see a lot more girls from West Cork making their mark on the provincial and international stage.
Do you have to pinch yourself sometimes? You're so young and you've achieved so much in a short space of time, and even like Joe Schmidt presenting you your AIL kind of Rising Star Award there just recently, kind of, do you ever sit back and say, Jesus, it's been a whirlwind rise?
Yeah, I think these last few weeks now at the end of the season, everything's just sunk in a bit, so I'm still not really used to it all, but yeah, I never expected at the start of the season that I'd be here with 2 caps and great senior into pros under my belt, but it all just happened, and I just had to take it as it came.
Does the hard work kind of start now? You've kind of made a name for yourself, and there's people talking about you, but is the challenge now you have to stay there and you have to improve? Yeah,
obviously I ticked a lot of things off the bucket list, like playing for Ireland. I've dreamed of it since I was young, but now that I've got it, now that that's happened once or twice, I just want to do it more, and like, there's obviously going to be that pressure to keep going and keep bettering yourself, but I think I always want to do that anyway for my own personal development, so it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. I'm going to have to do the work anyway if I want to get better.
Internationally, so what's next up?
I'm not sure at the moment. I'd say there'll be autumn internationals now in November, and we'll look towards those after when we start pre-season and stuff, so it'll be a busy season again, hopefully, but I don't know.
So like the season's come to kind of a close now, a bit of downtime, but you played with the O'Donovan Rossall ladies last year and you won the County Junior C football final, beating Castlehaven in a replay. There was big celebrations that time. How enjoyable was that to play football at Skib?
Yeah, it's great. I do love playing football now, and it was a nice break from the rugby last summer, so it's good to keep up the fitness as well, and obviously to win a junior county medal was a bit of an added bonus, and it's good to beat Castlehaven too.
You had to get that in there.
Yeah. No, but football is great, and I enjoy. Like, the girls are great on the team, and yeah.
Will you be back playing a bit of GAA this summer? What's the plan?
We'll see. I'm not too sure at the moment. So.
College has finished too. You're a physiotherapy student up in UL. What's that like? How's that going for you?
Yeah, college is going well. I'm just finished second year now, and I'm starting my first placement next week in Cork. So, it's going really good, and I can't, like, everyone's been very helpful to me. All the lecturers have been very understanding of the situation, and they've let me catch up on classes that I've missed and stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit of a challenge trying to balance it all, but I'm managing it so far anyway.
Does it help you kind of studying the course that's almost linked to sport? Well, it is linked to sport, physiotherapy. Does that help you kind of both ways? It'll help you rugby and it'll help you in class, or?
Yeah, it does a small bit. In fairness, there's a small bit of a link, alright, and I can chat to the physios on the team that I'm with as well, and they kind of give me some advice and some different kind of exercises and things that I can be doing, and I'm always kind of learning, really.
And you'll pass on your advice to them as well, is it?
Yeah.
No, brilliant. Enya, come here. Thank you so much for coming in to join us here on the Star Sport podcast. No doubt we'll be hearing a lot more about you in the coming weeks, months and years. So congratulations on a superb season.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
No bother. Thanks, Enya.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And Kieran, as per usual, I have a feeling that it's going to be a pretty good sports section this week, based on what you told me off air.
Jack, again, super sports section this week. 24 pages of the best of local West Cork sport. Obviously, the Cork Hurlers had a super win against Limerick at the Gaelic Grounds last Sunday in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, so we've 2 pages on that. Also, the Cork Ladies are starting their Munster Senior Football Championship campaign against Waterford this Sunday evening CIT, so we have a preview there. The Cork Camogie team are in the Munster final against Tipperary this weekend. We talked to Orla Cronin from Inniskeen about that. Schoolboy soccer has been topical the last couple of weeks, and as we all know, the West Cork Schoolboys League moved to the summer calendar season, which is currently ongoing. But directive from the FAI that came out late last week is saying that that leagues can switch back to the old format, the winter format. So it looks like the FAI are ditching summer soccer, which is it's a kick in the balls, I'm going to say, for pardon the pun, for the West Cork Schoolboys League, because they're one of the few kind of schoolboys leagues in the country that have already made the move. It's only a couple of weeks in, yet now they get this directive from the FAI. Okay, lads, you've made a change, but let's go back to the old way.
And the West Cork Schoolboys League, from my understanding, is they decided to make the change on the back of Dublin, Donegal, and Clare
yeah,
making the move. So they were the trial leagues, shall we say, and the FAI said, "Oh, this has been quite a success in Dublin, and Donegal, and Clare. So West Cork, feel free to join in the summer revolution. This is the future of football in Ireland."
Well, it was the future.
And 6 weeks in, the future is the past. And the Dublin District Schoolboys League, which is of course probably the biggest, and
they have a bit of pull there, I'd say.
They just decided, look, this isn't working for us. There's too much competition with holidays, rugby, GAA. I'm assuming is the reasons for it.
It just
and just like that,
form. It is.
It's hardly surprising that the FAI would pull a stroke like this. It's not like it's the most well-run, functioning organisation in Irish sports administration.
That's a very nice way of putting it, without getting us in trouble, Jack. So
as much as I feel for the West Cork League, and it is a terrible position to be in now, it's hard to say I'm surprised.
No, it's not surprising. So we have a bit of reaction. We have local reaction from that move. As well as that, the European Rowing Championships are on next week, and there's 5 Skibbereen rowers in the Irish team of 10. You'll all remember Jake and Fintan McCarthy, the twins who were in with us last week in the podcast. They've been picked in the men's lightweight double. Gary O'Donovan is going in the lightweight single, and there's a lightweight women's double of Denise Walsh and Lydia Heafy. And we actually speak to Lydia in an interview in this week's Southern Star. She's new; it's her first kind of senior international regatta, so we've a lovely chat with Lydia. John Hoddett from Rosscarbery has been picked on the Ireland under-20 team that's going to the under-20 World Cup in Argentina. Josh Wycherley from Cailkill is going as well, but we have an interview with John Hoddett on that. So as you can see, Jack, there is something for everyone here. We've rugby, soccer, football, ladies football, camogie, hurling, bowling, you name it, we have it this week, and athletics, and a lot more in between. So Thursday, get out and buy the Star.
And if you can't get to a shop to buy a physical copy of the Southern Star, you can always just go online to the Southern Star website, search for www.southernstar.ie/e-paper, and you can read the Southern Star for less than €2 a week, which in my opinion is absolutely cracking value for what you get. But
it's less than a chicken fillet roll.
We're not getting into another food conversation, despite it causing quite a stir last week. But what we will start is a new segment this week, and maybe it won't carry on to next week. We'll see how it goes.
I think it will.
But Kieran, my co-host and the sports editor of the Southern Star, is just sitting to my left here, or to my right if you're looking at us through a mirror, which would be unusual. But we are kind of have a mirror effect on the screen we're looking at, so it's kind of confusing. But he's very agitated today. Anything anyone says is causing him to get a bit riled up. There's been steam coming out of his ears since 9 o'clock this morning. No one really knows why. But I want to give him the floor now with Kieran McCarthy's Rant of the Week.
And it's not the Game of Thrones finale, which I did watch last night, and it is what it is.
Just go back before we move on to your Rant of the Week. Just your 2 cents on the Game of Thrones finale.
I actually liked it. I was watching it last night, and it just took me a second to kind of soak it in. I was like, alright, it felt a bit surreal. I think people were waiting for this big twist in the final episode, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, and there was a twist or two, but when you kind of sit back for a second, it's actually quite a good ending. I think what happened to the Game of Thrones is people's expectations were, people wanted the ending that they wanted, and then when they didn't get what they wanted, they threw their toys out of the pram, and this petition that reached over.
Threw their toys out of the Bran. Would that be a good reference?
I like it.
I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming, judging by Twitter, it's something to do with him.
Could be, or maybe not.
Maybe not.
No spoilers here, but I see that petition, over 1 million people signed a petition for HBO to remake season 8, which is the biggest load of nonsense.
This is turning into a bit of a rant.
It is, because people didn't get the ending that they wanted. It doesn't work out like that. What if Liverpool beat Man City back in the league, going back in January, and they won the league? What if? Life isn't what if, The series is what the series is, which is a cracking series. Really good 8th season, really enjoyed it. It's over now, so it's back to normal life without dragons and the Dothraki. So, but now my rant.
So this is your real rant.
This is my real rant, and I think all sports journalists across the country will agree with me here. Obviously, local elections are coming up this weekend. Huge news right across the country, and in all local newspapers and radio stations, all the news departments will be out in force on Friday and Saturday, I presume, the counts and stuff. But it's the one day of the year, and I include my colleagues in the Southern Star here, that they put in a really hard shift. Well, to be fair, they work hard all year round. But on this Saturday, when the elections come around, they'll all put in a hard shift on a Saturday, a long day, and we won't hear the end of it for another year. The way I look at it, Jack, right, as sports journalists, and especially there could be a game on a Wednesday, you could have a deadline at 10:30, like that's pressure, and you're working the deadlines all the time. Sports journalists work every weekend, 52 weekends a year, yet these news sections will work one weekend every election, once every 52 weeks, yet we'll hear about that for the next year. So I'm just saying, that's my rant, that people underappreciate the work that sports journalists put in.
Oh, I'm playing the smallest violin in the world.
Well, I don't mind, because we're well used to it. I just know how it's going to go. I'm just sick of hearing about.
Are you feeling underappreciated in your workplace?
No, I think people who cover elections are overappreciated.
Okay, that's so it's a good way to look. You have to look at things from both sides.
Because us, like, people know us sports journalists and sports editors and sport reporters, we're modest, we're humble, we're just very unassuming characters who just get on with our work.
I would dispute that statement now. If anything, sports reporters and editors are the least modest people.
That's a topic for another podcast, I think. But all I want to say is just best to look to the Southern Star News Department for working this Saturday. Your soldiers, each and every one of you, I'll say a prayer, I'll light a candle, that you'll survive the Saturday, the long day, that you'll be fed and watered, and that you'll get sleep on Sunday when you come back to the office on Monday, that you'll be raring to go. But don't spare a thought for the sports journalists who cover football games, rugby games, soccer games, and 52 weekends of the year, and it all goes unnoticed. So that's my rant check, and maybe this could become a weekly segment because you
have a lot to get off your chest.
I have a lot to get off my chest, yeah. But no, again, everyone, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to the show. Thanks very much.